well, thank you guys for coming tonight. My name is Wroble. For those of you that don't know me, I am the dietitian here. I do classes like this. I do lots of stuff out in the community. Yeah. I do private consultations, lots of different things. Tonight, you probably were wondering why the dietitian is going to talk to you guys about beer and beef, right? They're not really, at the forefront of healthy things. Two different reasons, I guess. I told him beer was good for him, he says. Yes, I did. There is some unknown research, I guess, about both beer and beef, and I wanted to share that with you guys tonight. It is February, which is National Heart Month, and both beef and beer are actually good for your heart. I provided you guys with a couple handouts from the Beef Council, and you've also got recipes. And on your first handout at the top, I just kind of outlined real quick bullet point what the deal is with beef and beer. I just want to run through that real quick, and then I'll talk about what I cooked for you, and we'll do some tasting. Okay? If at any point in time you have questions, just please let me know. My classes are very informal. All right, to start with, why beef? Okay. Beef, we know, is a great source of protein, great source of B vitamins, and but lean beef is also it can be low in saturated fat. And with heart health, we're concerned about saturated fat because that's what builds up in your arteries. Saturated fat is very sticky, so when that builds up, it can lead to heart disease. A serving of lean beef, which by definition must be less than 10 grams of fat, less than 4.5 grams of saturated fat, and less than 95 milligrams of cholesterol per 3-ounce serving. If it meets those guidelines, it's considered lean, and it has around 150 calories, okay? This handout here talks about, this bold paper, there was a study called Beef and an Optimal Lean Diet, and it was actually a very, very good study. I'm quite skeptical of things like this. And it was a quality research study, and what they did was they put a group of people on the standard heart-healthy diet. If you've ever heard of it, it's called the DASH diet. It's very, very high in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and it's very, very low in red meat. And instead of red meat, they're getting their protein from vegetable sources, lean meats, and fish. That's our gold standard diet that we put someone on when they have some heart conditions, okay? It's very hard to follow because here in America, we like our beef, right? And we like grains and don't like to eat fruits and veggies. Then they took a version of that and they substituted in lean beef instead of all that chicken at the same serving amount. And then they did another bold study where they were at an even higher level of beef, okay, with all the veggies and whole grains. What they found was that those people that were eating the beef in place of the chicken, they were able to lower their cholesterol as much as those people eating chicken and fish and legumes. But those people that were eating the extra amount of lean beef actually lowered their LDL, bad cholesterol, the most. Okay, this is totally unheard of. Doctors are always telling people less red meat, less red meat, less red meat. Well, yeah, less red fatty meat. Okay, lean beef certainly can work on a heart-healthy diet. Okay, so that's the gist of my beef stuff. For beer, we know that any type of alcohol is actually good for the heart in moderation. Whether it's wine or beer or straight up brandy or vodka, all ethanol can help thin your blood. It helps keep your arteries flexible, and it helps prevent plaque buildup in your veins, okay? We also know that craft beer, which is all you guys, right, this awesome craft beer club, craft beer, just because of the way it's brewed, it has, in the end result, has higher levels of the barley and hops that it started out with, okay? It's less filtered, less refined, so basically you have more of the good stuff in your end product. Because there's more of that good stuff, you see that in your health benefits. There's more nutrients. There's actually some soluble fiber. There's actually protein in beer. There's some calcium, there's silicon, and some other minerals that are helpful in bone health. And because of that, if you compare beer to wine, there's different health benefits, and it actually is also good for your heart, okay? So you got to drink more, he says. Beer is also more water. It's got a higher water content. It's got more carbohydrates. So what does that mean? Well, it means you guys have lots of energy compared to us wine drinkers, and you guys are better hydrated, so you can, go longer, okay? So that is basically the gist of my science research background. Does anybody have any questions? No. You also have this little brochure. When you're shopping, you know, there's lots of different varieties of beef, over 29 options for lean beef, okay? And a lot of it is some of your favorite cuts. Sirloin, tenderloin, round steak, roasts. You've got lots of different options. If you need recipes, go to the Beef Council website, beefit'swhatsfordinner.com, and they've got more information and cooking instruction as well. Okay? So I need you guys to hang tight for a minute. We're going to turn the broilers on and do your first dish. Brian's going to talk a little bit about the beers that he has ready to go for tonight, and then we'll just move through things. Okay? Disclaimer, I am not Tracy. I'm not a chef. So I cook like this at home. My kitchen is messy. So forgive me, but hopefully you guys have some good food and some good beer tonight. Okay? Thanks for coming.
The beauty of beer as opposed to wine is the flexibility with food. There are so many other flavor components that you deal with beer as opposed to wine. So there is an opportunity to really kind of hone in and be really specific when you pair a beer with food items.
Do you guys like that one? Yeah. Is the peanut overpowering?
No.
At first, Brian told me that. He said, peanuts? This peanut butter is very offensive. And I took offense to it because I thought it was great. I was just like scooping out the peanut butter sauce. But the peanut obviously has good monounsaturated fats, so that's a great way to add some flavor to the lean beef without, you know, a stick of butter. I know some people that like to work here and like to use lots of butter, but this would be another option. This is flank steak. Flank steak is one of the leanest ones. A lot of times we use it in fajitas or Mexican type dishes, tacos, things like that. And all we did was slice it against the grain. Do you guys know what that means? When you look at the steak, it's got like little lines running through it. If you slice it the opposite way, it makes it easier to chew. Because it is so lean, there's not a lot of fat in it to let it crumble and fall apart. Slicing it that way makes it easier for the eater, okay? Other than that, it's just a lot of Asian flavorings. You could even take this and put it in a wrap or serve it in a lettuce wrap, a pita wrap, lots of different options. Okay. But you can make this sauce in advance, and once it's in the refrigerator, it's going to solidify just a little bit. You can just keep thinning it out with water. It would also be really good if you did a stir fry and added that at the very end for a Thai stir fry type sauce, or if you did for lunch, you know, if you had leftover beef, you guys could grill up some extra beef and take it to lunch and throw it in a wrap. Spread some of that peanut butter sauce on your tortilla. Lots of different options. Maybe even do a flank steak on pizza and put the peanut sauce on the bottom or drizzle it on the top. Lots of different options. Nice job, Mike. Okay. All right, so your next recipe that we're going to do is a Bistro steak and potato salad. I had Brian take this, and he said, you know, half these people are going to think your little lettuce greens there are garnish. Well, they're not. You guys have seen the old My Plate, right? There's a picture of it on the back of your brochure. Half your plate's fruits and veggies, a quarter protein, a quarter grain, okay? Here in the Midwest, here in America, it's half protein, quarter starchy potato, and quarter bread, okay? That's how we eat. Right. Yeah, with a bowl of beer, okay? If you guys can match your plate to look like that My Plate, you know, half fruits and veggies and then a moderate size of protein and a moderate size of grain, if every American did that, I would be out of a job in no time, okay? It's not super, super hard. We actually sell little plates out there that have that color-coded scheme on it, and a lot of people really like it, okay? And they're only like $1 for the small one and $2 for the big one, so it can help make meal planning very easy. This salad has everything in it ready to go. You've got your fruits, or you've got your veggies here with your salad greens. And then I took some, this is sirloin. Actually, yeah, I did this one. This is the top sirloin. I seared it in a pan, okay? Before I seared it, I just seasoned it with salt and pepper and rubbed a little olive oil on the outside. I rubbed the olive oil on the outside just because it is so lean. Help prevent it from sticking to the pan because it's not going to get a lot of fat draining off of it. Just follow your guidelines on cooking time and let it rest. Be sure to let it rest. When you let meat rest, the juices stay in it, okay? So you don't slice into it right away and drain away all the good juiciness. Then in that pan, I just seared up some potatoes, okay? These are the Klondike, they're called Klondike potatoes. We sell them in the produce section in a little bag. They come in multicolored, so we've got purple ones in here, my favorite color, red and Yukon Golds, okay? I sliced those up and just seared them in the pan. I did jump start the cooking process on the potatoes by microwaving them first. So it is pretty quick. It's kind of a one dish entree, and then we're going to serve it with a homemade vinaigrette, okay? So I'm going to dish up some of this steak on each salad bowl, pass it around. So how many of you guys think potatoes are bad for you? They're fattening, right? They're carbs?
No, it's banana.
That's right. You've talked to me before, haven't you? Yep.
Butter.
Yep. A regular potato, you know, it's a little bit larger. We consider a serving of potato a little bit larger than your computer mouse. That's about 100 calories, and you get a great shot of fiber, 5 or 6 grams. Those little Klondike ones that I talked about, those little bags, between 6 and 8 of those little potatoes, it's considered a serving. And they're about, they range from about that tall, that wide, to some of them are more round. But that's a nice, decent-sized serving, okay? So don't be afraid of potatoes. They're great. And potatoes actually have more potassium than a banana. And everybody thinks bananas, you know, are great for potassium, muscle cramps. But potassium actually can help counteract sodium in your diet to help lower your blood pressure. Okay, so potatoes are great. Eat more of them. I had a little freak out this week because I talked to our meat manager on Monday, and he said, Kim, we haven't had tenderloin for about 3 days. They keep shorting us. There's a shortage. And I said, how can there be a shortage? It's a cow. Just cut me some tenderloin. So these are some, it is tenderloin. They were fillets that I just pounded real thin with a meat mallet. Tenderloin is the most tender cut, most tender part of the animal. By pounding it thin, it makes it even thinner. And then I just rubbed an Asian marinade on it. And the inside is it's got scallion, which is green onion, and kale. I took the kale and blanched it just to take away a little of the bitterness and to partially cook it. And that's rolled up with some green onion, and then they're grilled. Very simple. All right, I'm going to pass out our next one. This is a rosemary balsamic steak. This one was super, super easy. I diced up some rosemary. Make sure you dice it nice and small. The first trial run of this, I was in a hurry, so I just kind of was like chopping, and I brought it over to those guys, and a couple of them got a big old wallop, big chunk of rosemary. They didn't like that. So the second time around when I made it for you guys, I made sure I diced it up. And to make sure I got it really, really good, I stuck it through the blender and just blended it with the balsamic, and then a little olive oil, and you just let it marinate. With your steak, though, just a kind of a trick for you guys to make it, to help the marinade infuse through your meat, I scored the meat. And what that means is you just take a real sharp knife and just slice real thin on the top. You go in about 1/8 of an inch in a cross-hatch pattern, and then go ahead and marinate it. Okay, it just helps everything sink through, because marinades, despite what we all think, they don't really infuse and they don't really get through all the tough meat fibers. That flank steak that you guys had in the first recipe, that's kind of the loosest grain, meaning the collagen fibers are real loose, and so there's space. So that'll take on marinade really, really nice. But the sirloin's a little bit tighter grain, okay? So by scoring it, you just help improve it. Mike grilled these for you guys, and so before he grilled them, all I did was pat it dry to get rid of that extra marinade and threw them on the grill. And with the leftover marinade, what I did was I had them take it to the stove and boil it and simmer it to get rid of any bugs that might be lurking in there, that bacteria. And then we just threw that over the top as a finishing sauce. We reduced it a little bit. And you guys can do that. Once you take your marinade and bring it to a boil and let it simmer for a little bit, you're going to kill off anything that's in there, and you can just use that as a sauce. Okay? These are just roasted veggies. This is my go-to weeknight option to get some veggies. I just take whatever I've got in my fridge, chop them up, throw them with some olive oil, maybe some fresh herbs, and roast them in the oven at a high temperature. Roasting just means cooking at 400 degrees or higher. What happens is all vegetables, even things like broccoli and Brussels sprouts, all vegetables have a natural amount of sugar in them. By cooking them at that high temperature, you bring out the natural sugars and they caramelize, and it helps cut any bitterness in any vegetable. So these I roasted for about a half hour, and then I sprinkled on some Parmesan cheese, some fresh herbs, and a little bit of dry vermouth, or you could use white wine, doesn't matter. Pop them back in for about another 10 minutes, and that's it. Mongolian sloppy joe sliders. They are messy, so I did skewer them with a toothpick, and I'm going to give you a spoon, but just they're sloppy joes, so they're going to be messy. The ground sirloin's a little bit different than ground beef. This is 93% ground sirloin. It stays a little bit more moist in something like this. Goes great in a meatloaf. But what's really interesting about mushrooms, they're kind of cool in cooking. They have some unique culinary properties. They have a very savory flavor called umami. And when you put them in place of meat or put them in dishes with meat, they complement one another. And they really amp up that meatiness, yumminess, that umami flavor. The other thing that we know about mushrooms is that by putting them in a dish, they enhance the other flavors. So all that Asian stuff I've got going on there, the mushrooms actually help your taste buds sense those things a little bit more. And when you use mushrooms in a recipe, like a meatloaf, you can cut back on the amount of beef and sub in some mushrooms, and that way you save some calories, fiber, some fat and cholesterol. But you can also use less sodium because, like I said, mushrooms enhance the other flavors. They enhance the taste of salt as well, so you can cut back on sodium in the entire dish. There's a mushroom council, just like there's a council for everything, the beef council, the avocado council, you know, everything. There's a bean council, FYI, if you like black beans, they've got a bean council. But if you go to the mushroom council, they have some of that research on there. They actually did some scientific research on the culinary properties of mushrooms, and they have that info about salt and using them as a substitute. And there's some neat recipes on there, so be sure to check that out. So this recipe is just a real simple weeknight sloppy Joe type thing. It should be pretty kid-friendly, and just a unique spin on something that you might be used to. Okay. So we have more if you need it. If not, I don't have anything else to share with you guys. If you have questions, let me know. If not, thank you for coming, and hopefully I see you guys again.
Thank you.